Chris Lee and Blake Lovell of Southeastern 14 presented by Stakes here to preview Louisville's trip to Kentucky this weekend in that annual rivalry game. Kentucky bounced back-ish after losing to Vandy last week, played better against Georgia, really held down a really good offense, but offense has been an issue for Kentucky. That popped up again. Louisville's been playing good ball. It looks like that team is trending upwards as the season ends. What do we make of this matchup, Blake?
Boy, yeah, it's hard to figure out, I think, because let's call it what it is. This Kentucky team has certainly not been playing the way they want to play. When you just kind of look at obviously the loss to Vanderbilt and even the win at Missouri, we talked about that game. Like it still felt like you were just pulling and pulling and pulling to try to. And I mean, what was that? The late penalty was that game? The punt, or whatever it was.
Yeah, the Missouri game.
Yeah, I mean, really, I think we can go since the Tennessee game, right? Kentucky's just not played great. Got blown out in that game, won at Missouri, but certainly felt like they should have done a few things better than they did. Lose at home to Vanderbilt, and I know it's a close loss to Georgia, but I don't know that Kentucky fans take a lot of, moral victories out of that. But so yeah, it's a Kentucky team that just has not really been able to find its way. Specifically, I think on the offensive side, right? I mean, that's been probably one of the more disappointing things, just in terms of not being able to do things. And I think we know the reasons why, and I know you'll bring up one of those in a second. But yeah, meanwhile, a Louisville team that's played some pretty good football here down the stretch, and yes, it's going to be a challenge for the Cats, I think, just based on how they've been playing.
Yeah, Louisville lost to Boston College back on October the 1st. I don't follow Louisville. We're an SEC channel. I don't know how in the world that happened because BC's not a very good team. But since then, Louisville beats a not-so-good Virginia team 34-17, beats a pretty respectable Pitt team 24-10, clobbers a good Wake Forest team 48-21, beats James Madison, which is a pretty good Sun Belt team 34-10, and loses by a score of 31-16 to Clemson, and then beats pretty good and a ranked NC State team 25-10 last week. So that's Louisville's journey to get here. Let's talk about different sides of the matchup, Blake. When Louisville's got the ball, Cards average 28.5 points a game. Kentucky gives up 19.6. The Cardinals have lost 8 fumbles, 8 picks. Kentucky has recovered 6 fumbles, had 8 picks. Louisville been sacked 21 times. Kentucky has generated 15 sacks. Louisville likes to run the ball a little bit more than it throws. We count sacks as passing plays, 37 rush plays a game, 31 pass plays for the Cardinals. On those, Louisville averages 5.5 per rush, 6.7 per pass. Kentucky gives up 4.8 and 5.9. What do we make of this side of the matchup?
Yeah, I mean, it's the thing with Louisville, right? When you look at just the numbers, it's certainly a team that can, I think, do a lot of things okay, but I think the rushing is where you look at, just in terms of the numbers this year, and they've had different guys, step up in the running attack and be able to certainly make big contributions, and I think that's one where you talk about too, like the schedule for Louisville. I mean, we can talk about the ACC, we look at it from an SEC standpoint, but this is still a team that, like you said, has been able to do a lot of good things. And you've seen, again, different guys step up in the running game. And I think that's a big part of the equation here for this team in terms of how they could be able to try to attack this Kentucky defense. And I just think it's kind of trying to figure out, who do you have to stop if you're Kentucky? And I think that's probably the game you play here against this Louisville offense.
Well, you just hit the key phrase I was going to bring up. And I'm sure there's going to be Louisville fans watching us. We try to be fair in our previews, but we watch Kentucky a lot, have not seen Louisville that much. But if you're a football fan, you know the name Malik Cunningham. He got hurt, I think, the last play of the Clemson game was described as day-to-day. He did not play last week in Louisville's win over NC State. Was it Brett Doman started?
Yeah.
Brock Doman, started. Was 12 of 25 for 153. I think they had a huge punt return in that game. It was a low-scoring game, and so I guess they didn't need him to do as much. So we have a live stream every Wednesday night. and we do injury updates and stuff like that. You may want to tune in for that one to see what his status is. So anyway, I want to get that out of there. That's going to be a big factor in this game, I think, is whether Malik Cunningham plays or not.
Yep, we will update that on Wednesday, as always, in our live stream.
Okay, before we get to the other side of the ball, a shout out to our sponsors at Stakes. Predict sports better than the crowd for a chance to win NFTs. With Stakes, players can cement their sports predictions against friends, other fans, and influencers forever. Don't let your sports genius go overlooked. Join Stakes and have the best predictions captured in the moment. Head to playwithstakes.com/14. Use our invite code Southeastern14 for a double welcome bonus. Free to join, free to play. It's a predictions app, not a betting app. Help out the folks who help us and have some fun in the meantime. Okay. When Kentucky's got the ball, Blake, boy, it's not been pretty lately. Cats averaging 21.7 points a game. Really, it's not been pretty all season. Louisville giving up 19.6. Kentucky has lost 6 fumbles. The Cardinals have recovered 13. Kentucky's thrown 11 picks. The Cardinals have 15. Goodness, turnovers. Big part of what Louisville does. Here's a stat that jumps off the page. Louisville has registered 41 sacks. Kentucky's given up 40. We've talked about how big an issue Kentucky's offensive line has been all year. I don't know if there's been a less productive offensive line in the SEC than that one. Kentucky tries 32 running plays a game, 30 pass plays. Kentucky's going to try to slow the tempo every week. On those, the Cats are averaging 4.4 per rush play, 6.4 per pass. Louisville giving up 4.9 per rush, 5.5 per pass play. This game just screams run Chris Rodriguez as much as you can if you're Kentucky.
I feel like we've said that a lot this season.
Yeah.
I mean, but I don't know, man. It's like this Kentucky offense. I don't know if like broken's the right word, but it has been a struggle, hasn't it? When you just kind of look at
I
what
think
they've
broken
been able.
may be the right word.
I mean, because that's the thing. Look here, let's just look at it from the number standpoint, right? They scored 6 against Georgia. I mean, look, not a lot of teams are scoring against Georgia. 21 against Vandy, and we know there's some other factors in play here other than just maybe just offensive plays. But 21 against Missouri, 6 against Tennessee, which in hindsight, given what South Carolina did, 27 against Mississippi State, 14 against South Carolina. That was without Will Levis. 19 against all. It's just been a team that just has not. I mean, let's think about this, Chris, right? Like we go across the SEC, even in non-conference games. I mean, Kentucky hasn't put up more than 31 points this season in a game.
Yeah.
And I think it's just the expectations were with Will Levis, who a lot of people projecting as a top 5 pick in the NFL draft. We'll see, what that looks like. And if that actually happens, Chris Rodriguez, who we know didn't play early in the season, but it's just, they have not been able to, and I know Kentucky fans have been frustrated with the play calling. You've talked about the offensive line a lot. There's just been a lot of different factors. So I can't say that, with complete confidence here that I know that Kentucky's going to be able to do something, even with Chris Rodriguez, going to be able to do enough offensively, to challenge this Louisville defense that hasn't been bad. So yeah, I mean, it's a question. And I think it's just, boy, Chris, you want to talk about a common theme? Kentucky football and Kentucky basketball offensive issues right now.
Ooh.
My goodness. It's just like you tie both of those together, and I understand why Kentucky fans are frustrated because it has been not easy to watch. And I don't know. I mean, I don't have a lot of confidence in this offense right now in terms of what they could be able to do against this Louisville defense. So,
okay, I want to throw out some other stats before we get into picks and our whys. Kentucky, one thing Kentucky has done really well is avoid penalties. I think Kentucky is the least penalized team in the league, giving up 38 yards in penalties a game. Louisville is averaging 71 yards of penalties a game. That's a lot. Special teams, FEI before last weekend, and again, Louisville did get a kickoff return touchdown, so I would expect this ranking to go up. FEI is usually updating its special teams rankings midweek. Louisville was ranking 84 through 10 games, Kentucky 37. We have mentioned how Kentucky's got a threat in Berry and Brown who can take one back to the house at any time. So Kentucky gets a little back when you start factoring in special teams and penalty yards. Strength of schedule, Kentucky's has been tougher than Louisville's, according to Jeff Sagarin and ESPN's ranking, FPI. Average ranking between those two strengths of schedules, Kentucky 24, Louisville 45. Okay, let's get to the important part. The line is 3.5 in Louisville's favor, over under of 43.5.
Kentucky's the favorite, aren't they?
Yeah, you're right. Kentucky is the favorite.
I think that will surprise some people, but yes, they are the favorite.
That surprised me. I'd written it down wrong. That means a predicted final of 24-20 Kentucky. I'll be honest, Blake. I'll get straight to the point. Louisville is the better team right now, even without its quarterback. And I know Kentucky fans aren't going to want to hear this, but I mean, I've been the guy all year that said, hey, I look at some things, I watch them play. There's some things that don't quite add up with them in terms of what I see and the perception of the program right now. And look, I'm a big Mark Stoops fan. I think he's done a tremendous job. If you're Kentucky, I think you hope he's coach for life because he's got an identity. But they lost some offensive linemen last year. They lost a coordinator. They've never really recovered from that. That has shaped a lot of Kentucky's season. Look, the key to beating them is getting after Will Levis and forcing mistakes or sacks, which Kentucky's made plenty of. Louisville can do that. The defense is really good. I don't understand why Kentucky is favored in this game. I know it's home, but everything about the matchup to me just screams Louisville.
I think that Cunningham's status will be important here, and I think again we'll talk about that in the live stream on Wednesday night if we know more. Figure that out. But you say all that, and I just said everything. I was like, man, it's going to be a challenge for Kentucky. I feel like at every turn in this video, I've said, man, it's going to be a challenge. Like I don't know how Kentucky does this. They're going to have trouble with this. But I also feel like this is kind of one of those games that Kentucky maybe finds a way to win just on the strength of perhaps what their defense could do here. Because I think it will be a low scoring game, because let's remember this too. Remember, we're not professional bettors. We always say this in our videos. But the under is hit in 10 of 11 games this season for Kentucky. And the under here, or the over under, is 43. So that means you're talking a low scoring game here. Louisville's 1-6 against the spread in their last 7 against SEC teams. Kentucky, again, we're going to our friends at Covers, which we kind of just throw out. Again, not as professional bettors, but just for those who find this stuff interesting. Road team 7-1 against the spread in the last 8 games between these two. So that obviously plays in Louisville's favor. But man, I know, and it's like I feel like Louisville's
Kentucky just can't score enough points.
You're right, and they can't. They cannot score enough points, and I think that becomes an issue here. But at the same time, I think their defense, especially I think if Cunningham doesn't play, and I know we're not, by the way, we're not knocking Brock Doman here either, because I think again you kind of look at they just beat a good team, right? And NC State, they beat a top 10 team, and so let's not take anything away from Louisville here. Oh man, I don't want any part of this game because I think Kentucky's defense is good enough to be able to will them to a very low scoring win here.
Yeah.
But I think their offense is certainly a big question mark, and Louisville's defense has been good. Again, they just held NC State to 10, and again, for the most part, statistically, look at their defensive numbers; they've been really good. So, I don't know, Chris. I don't have a good feel either way on this.
It feels like 13-10 or something.
I suppose that was the number that popped in my head when I thought the score. I was like, I could see Kentucky winning a 13-10 game because I feel like this is a low scoring game. Yeah, this is one that I'm just kind of stumped on because I look at the spread. We always say, right, Vegas knows something. If you'd asked me if we'd have did our pick the opening line or whatever, even as non-betting guys, I would have probably put this in Louisville's favor. But the fact that Kentucky's favored by 3.5, that may tell you a little something.
Well,
Perhaps.
I had written down the spread as Louisville 3.5, and I
Yeah.
didn't read
So
it,
that's
and
yeah,
I didn't even think to check it until you said that. That's what I think about this.
yeah. I don't know, man.
So
I just flip a coin for me because I just don't know which Kentucky team we're getting here. I think they're good enough defensively to win the game. I just offensively is it's just been frustrating and play calling. I don't know what to expect in this game against Louisville.
okay, well, we will be updating some things on Wednesday night. Malik Cunningham's status, if we know any more, we'll talk about that. Best way to get all that is to subscribe. We're doing a lot of basketball stuff too. In fact,
Oh,
we're going to record
Chris, don't say
a.
that to Kentucky or Louisville fans because right
Well,
now both of
that's
them are
true.
probably frustrated. But
I'm
by the
sure
way,
they are, but
we're recording this before Louisville's game on Monday against Arkansas. So if they beat Arkansas, then congratulations. But
right.
been a tough start.
But yeah, we are knee deep in football and basketball. Best way to get all our stuff, hit that subscribe button. So anyway, thank you for watching. Thanks to Stakes. We'll see you again soon at Southeastern 14.